Hey guys, welcome to the Ducks and Dogs podcast. My name is Mike with FQ Ducks, and I have my co-host Matt with FQ Washington. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I had it was like this peanut butter chocolate crust pie today. It was really good, and it's all I can think about right now. So,
Hell yeah.
but yeah, I'm
We
doing
got
good, man. Doing good.
we got a lot to get into today. Another top recruit out of the state of Washington leaves the state. JTT committing to Ohio State. How you feeling about that?
Color me shocked. I mean, everybody kind of knew that Ohio State was the favorite going into it. Obviously as a Dogs fan, and I'm sure as a Ducks fan too, you can hold out hope that he was gonna be, going to either school, surprising everybody. But we're pretty much down here fighting for second place for him. So.
Yeah, I didn't really have much hope until like the day of. Huffman was like, it's Ohio State and Oregon. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Huffman's pretty on it, but I that's still a majority Ohio State thing. I think he just had to throw in the second team in
I
there
think
just because.
my thought is that JTT wanted Ohio State and his family was pushing Oregon.
Yeah, I could see it. I heard a lot of rumors that his mom and stuff was pushing Washington for a long time too. I'm sure his family wanted either Washington or Oregon. I think just from what his teammates in high school, like G. Scott, you had a Mecca go there. You see kind of a Washington pipeline working over that way. So I mean, why not follow your teammates and stuff?
It's just an
I don't blame him.
anti-pipeline of East Side going to anywhere but Washington.
Yeah, and Eastside Catholic is a very interesting case study in Washington because they're pretty much one of the few high schools that consistently funnels kids out of the state. And obviously they're competing on a national level, right? You go to Eastside Catholic if you're from Washington or nearby just to get national recruiting recognition. But I mean, I think Sam Adams was he might have been the only one in the past couple years from that school that's gone to Washington. So, yeah.
Yeah, your guys' recruiting hasn't been the most positive news lately. Twitter's been ablaze with Washington fans roasting Washington's inability to recruit.
Yeah, it's been kind of a nightmare recently, and I don't blame fans for being upset. Obviously, we want to recruit better and, all that. And Jimmy, is kind of figuring out, how to recruit and stuff. I'm going to say that in hopes that 2022 goes a bit better for us. But that's not to say they don't find talented guys. It's just when you look at the pure stats and the stars of guys, we don't land high talent recruits all the time. I mean, Sam Heward was kind of a lock from the beginning for UW.
Like
You land
Ryan
some
Otten.
you land some 5 and 4 stars here and there, but for the most part, you're signing a lot of 3-star guys. And again, not a bad thing that Washington develops well. People know this already. But when you're in a conference with the likes of Oregon, UCLA, USC, who all, Oregon more so than the others, but there are other schools in the Pac-12 that recruit pretty decently. And, if you want to stay afloat, you'll see the results of poor recruiting probably 3-4 years after a class, something like that, because that's usually when those guys are in those starting spots. Only time will tell. So.
Yeah, I know. I just seen that corner there. A lot of the forecast changed from Washington to Notre Dame. Morrison, I think his name is.
Yeah, that was something. That's kind of a surprise to a lot of people. Obviously, he hasn't committed yet, but I'm still not super worried. But when the forecast changes that quickly, it is something to be a bit worried about, especially when, you know, we weren't really worried about that one just because, like, historically, like in the past year or two, like we recruit really well against Notre Dame when we're in those recruiting battles with them. So, yeah,
Yeah, man,
can't be
it's
those guys.
you did all right keeping guys in state in 2021. I mean,
Yep.
obviously you were recruiting. It's not fair to condemn Jimmy Lake completely. He's recruiting against Mario Cristobal is not the normal. Like recruiting that well the first year or 2 years in, that's not the normal. That's not the typical expectations you should have for a coach. As much as I hate Washington, it's unfair to say Jimmy Lake can't recruit because you're trying to compare him to Mario Cristobal, who's as a first-time Power 5 head coach has probably had the best initial recruiting classes ever. It's
Definitely
not
up
a
there,
fair
yeah.
comparison at all.
No, and I think it's one thing to point out that you're not recruiting well. It's another thing to want the guy's head on a stake, right? Like, I think there's a good chunk of Husky Twitter that's blowing this out of proportion because of one recruiting cycle and one 4-game season. And people say, well, Jimmy Lake's not a good coach because he's only coached 4 games. Jimmy Lake's also not a bad coach because he's only coached 4 games. The sample size isn't big enough to tell whether he's, good or bad yet, honestly. Like, I can honestly say that.
I think it was a combination over the past few days of JTT going to Ohio State, Dave Yuli's crystal balls all pouring in for Oregon, Morrison's predictions flipping to Notre Dame. I think it was just a lot that came on at one time when it comes to recruiting, and recruiting is probably 70% of the battle in college football. There's only been 2 teams to ever play for a championship under 50% blue chip ratio, and both of those were Chip Kelly built teams.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do. Like you said, we are consistently in recruiting battles with Oregon, Ohio State, Alabama's thrown in the mix most of the time, Oklahoma. The fact that we recruit well against Notre Dame, I think, is a good testament because they're one of the better programs in college football. But even then, it's like, you can't get a break. And it's good that you're competing for these top recruits, but every once in a while,
you start landing them.
You have to start landing them, and that's the thing. And that's where people are. I understand the frustration. I really do understand the frustration. Very passionate fan base to say the least. And they're kind of fired up right now. So
a lot of the guys you have are solid too in your class, but at the same time, the guys you have are also like the guys who are left over because the schools you were recruiting against for other teams didn't want them because they got somebody else.
That's pretty fair. I mean, there's usually a few top schools left, but a lot of the guys we have landed, Oregon's out of the conversation. Alabama, Ohio State, all those schools that we have struggled to recruit against are usually out of the conversation. One of them might be in the mix, but they are usually left out of the top 3 of these recruits anyways, for whatever reason, So that's how it crumbles. But with 2022 on the way, a lot of top recruits in-state, because I assume we can keep talking about in-state recruiting. A lot of top guys. Josh Connerly, all eyes are on him right now. The crystal ball says Washington, but obviously, there's a lot that can change. It's class of 2022. There's nothing set in stone yet.
No. With all due respect, the guy who has that Washington crystal ball in is not the most accurate.
Yeah.
I think that's he has crystal balls in for Washington for half of the state of Washington's players.
Yeah, I mean, for most of them, it's a pretty safe pick. It's just those top recruits, like we were talking about, are usually ones that dip. So
yeah, I think that's gonna be the whole thing too. It's Josh Connerly is gonna be the tell for this recruiting class. Tobias
100%.
Merriweather, you're not in it for, and I don't know if you probably want him, but because I don't know why you guys wouldn't want a top 150 ranked player when last year you only had 2 of them.
Yeah. Obviously, you want those guys, but he's out of the conversation. It's between you guys and Notre Dame right now.
Yeah, I don't even think he's a take for us right now.
Yeah, no, I think Notre Dame's the favorite there.
Dave Yulee, you guys have no chance in that one.
Oregon, for the first time in 15 years? It's been a while since you guys have landed us. Yeah,
Jonathan
16
Stewart.
years. Yeah, Jonathan Stewart was the last 4 or 5 star you guys took out of Washington. I think that drought ends for you guys with him. I mean, holy cow.
We might take 2 this. Well, we could take 3. If Misa's a take for us, we get Misa. I think.
I
don't think he's a take for us.
Yeah, I don't think he's a take for anybody. It's totally up in the air with him right now. Otten, kind of a lock for Washington. It would take something very drastic for him not to go to University of Washington, just with obviously the bloodline there.
Man, the teams you're recruiting against for Connerly, that's not going to be fun.
No, that's a bloodbath for anybody involved, even the top programs recruiting him.
I think it was, if I remember correctly, Oklahoma, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, and Washington.
Yeah, and that's
everybody.
Yeah, you gotta, and I mean, obviously the recruiting focus there, you're gonna have a lot of the staff from Washington on that, but also you're going to have the staffs on every other team you're competing against. So I don't know if it'll even that out to where we're at a disadvantage. We're obviously in state. We're the favorite right now just from the people who are thinking, he's in state. He showed up to that last visit weekend in June, which is a good sign. He came unannounced to that, which was pretty cool. It's good to see that, we're not losing him right now. I still think there's a really good shot that we land him. That's just what I think. I think it's going to be us. I think it's going to be you guys. And you're probably looking at,
Alabama, I think.
Bama. And I don't even know. I think it'll be down to those
Actually,
three.
I would really keep an eye on Texas for Josh Connerly now that Oregon landed Kelvin Banks.
Hmm.
Texas could be
Interesting.
huge for Josh Connerly.
It could. I just don't know if the pull from his local programs in Alabama is going to be enough to get his. Like, I think that pull is going to be too much for him. But obviously, I'm not the kid. I don't know. So,
If it comes
only time
down
will tell.
to those teams, the normal argument Washington fans tend to make is development.
Mhm.
What development have you guys shown for offensive tackles?
Caleb McGarry, for sure. I mean, first round draft pick for him. In our entire O line, most of our O line right now, you're not going to see the fruits of that labor, I think, until the next couple drafts because
So
you
after
got
his decision,
Kirkland. Yeah, so after his decision. But I mean, the evidence is still there, right? You're going to have Kirkland, who's going to be a top O line in the next draft.
do you have any
Um,
tackles in the NFL that you can think of? Let's start.
Caleb McGarry.
What does he
Caleb
play
McGarry.
for?
The Falcons.
Oh, okay, makes sense. That's why I don't know
Yeah,
who
he
he is.
was he was a first round pick a couple years ago. I think 2019 draft. Yeah, a couple. I mean, he was the best O line they've produced in a lineman they've produced in quite a long time. And
Pitch
I
Jordan
played
Reffett.
Oh, anyways,
For
sorry.
the audio listeners, Matt's face right there was absolutely priceless when I said Jordan Reffett.
Did you say something? I didn't hear anything. Hey, you know what? Kudos to the guy. He's doing well for himself. He tweets a lot, but guy's got a life going for him. It's just not in football, and that's okay. We're okay with that. Jordan Reffett, if you come across this, I'm really not trying to hate on you, dog, but sometimes you make it a bit easy to go after. So love you, man.
So,
Power to you, brother.
realistically, obviously Otten's 1.
Yeah.
Is 2 of 5 for the best players in Washington the best case scenario?
I don't think best case scenario. I think realistically, with Misa's recruitment,
Misa
we could be potentially looking at 3. That is best case scenario.
And that
'cause
would be if
obviously
you
the
guys
other
miss on
2
somebody too, right?
Yes.
'Cause I don't think he's number 1 on your board.
No, I don't think so. Because Connolly's 1. If we're just looking at Washington
I meant your
reference, we got
linebacker
Connor.
board.
Oh, linebacker board. For 2022, he's up there. I don't know if he's number 1 though. I think we're looking at a state for that, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Y'all
Need to do
should go
more
for a
research.
guy who was not a take at Oregon, but almost was. Travius Lathan out of Miami.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard of him.
It's really
He'd be
solid.
solid.
I like him,
Yeah.
but I don't
Mhm.
think he's a take for us. I wish he was because I really think he's a really good player,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's a take.
Yeah. And I mean, Washington's landing for 2022, you got Chance Brogan up there in the top 10 for the state. You got a couple other guys. I forgot, was Naboo the guy that decommitted or no?
Probably.
Yeah, because it's out of the top 10 right now, we've landed 2 of them in Ione and Brogan, who are 8 and 9, and then Naboo's 10. We're favored for him, and then obviously Otten and Connerly were favored for. So that's half of it, which is solid if we can land all those guys. Plus Misa would make 6 out of the top 10, which would honestly be really good for us. But
You'd be
again,
happy with
time will
that?
tell. I'd be very happy with that, honestly. A lot of quality guys. With last year's class, we still have talented guys. It's just the stars weren't there. Obviously, Heward was the main attraction of that class. But
He was the only attraction in that class.
we had a couple 4 stars. I'm a big fan of Will Latu from Bethel. He's a baller.
From what I was told by other Washington fans is that he will never play at Washington.
I could see that happening, but I think they're gonna find a place for him. I don't know if it'll be where he's
To be fair, it
supposed
was
to be playing, but...
UWFP opinions. So JTT should be ranked 250 to 300.
Why you gotta diss my dog Brandon like that, bro? He's your former co-host,
Yeah.
who also has you blocked on Twitter.
I've blocked him way before that. He just, I think he realized I blocked him, so he blocked me back.
Well, there you go. A fate worse than
So
death.
of the
Actually,
top
no.
10 last year, Clay Millen went to Nevada. Josh McCarron went to Virginia. You got Will Latu. This is, I think, the no offense to the kid, I hope he succeeds. I hope he does great. The worst commit in your class is a 4-star, I think. Jabez Tene.
You don't like Tene,
No,
huh?
he's
Which
not.
I find surprising. I think it helped I think his recruiting ranking was helped by the fact that people knew he was going to play with Sam Heward, and that connection when they were playing high school ball was absurd. Absolutely.
I think his recruiting
But
ranking was helped by the no season.
also that. But I think he's all that being a 4-star. I
I
really
like
do.
Junior Alexander, but I don't think y'all landed him, did you?
No, Arizona State got him.
Yeah, I think he's really nice.
Depending on what the NCAA decides to do, maybe we'll get it back. Who knows? But yeah, we actually landed what four out of the top 10 guys, which isn't terrible per se. But again, we lost the main guys in Emeka and JT.
Is Clay
to Ohio
Millen
State.
related to former Oregon quarterback Cale Millen?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
I really liked Cale. He wasn't great, but like he gave effort every time. Like he always gave maximum effort.
Millen, Millen was never
A take. No, I know that.
looking at Washington just because we landed Heward. I mean, he was gonna get buried in the depth chart. Kid is very talented, and I'm glad he found a home in Nevada, but it's just, that's a tough one.
And looking over the 2022 class, who is Washington the biggest name players outside of Washington? Who are they in for?
I kind of
So,
don't
like,
know.
A 300 and something ranked player?
I know there's a couple that are within the top 300.
It's kind of
God.
sad that that's like an accomplishment for you
Yeah,
guys.
but again, I think the big focus with this class again is gonna be in state, seeing how we do in state, because we're gonna be landing guys from Texas. We do decently in Texas, right? We do
Doing a quick
decently in
scroll.
SoCal, Arizona.
Mhm.
We're gonna get a couple guys from Nevada probably. We'll land some people from whoever else knows where, probably land some gem out of Idaho, some, stuff like that. I don't know.
I'm searching for any Washington crystal balls on the top 300 players real fast. So if you want to continue talking about anything.
Yeah.
Oh, you have one commit inside the top 250. Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver out of Nevada.
Oh my God, I completely forgot. He committed pretty early too, right? From what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I don't remember. It was a while ago. Yeah, he's a 4-star. He's solid. He's really good. He'll definitely help that room out, especially with kind of the attention that'll be on them this upcoming season.
I see UCLA a lot more than I expected to.
Dude, I'm telling you.
You guys are projected to land, as of right now, 0 other players inside the top 300.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But there's some guys on here I think you could get because they're projected at Oregon, but I highly doubt that they're a take at Oregon.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
And that is in no way trying to throw shade at Washington.
Yeah, no, it happens. Like, it totally happens. I mean,
like there's this linebacker out of Nevada, 267th ranked. We're deep at linebacker. I don't know if that's a need.
It's hard to tell. And I mean, like with Washington, everybody was freaking out about the DB flipping. What was his last name? Was it Morrison?
Yeah.
Yeah, him flipping to Notre Dame, but like Washington missing out on a DB recruit isn't the biggest deal.
No, y'all are pretty good
at least
with DBs lately.
In my opinion, we always have a deep DB room. We always have talented DBs. Not that we couldn't use those guys, but like it's not the end of the world like people are saying it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in regards to recruiting, Oregon landed 5-star offensive lineman Kelvin Banks over the holiday weekend, and a lot of A&M and Longhorn fans blamed the name, image, likeness, and film night and Nike for it. What do you think about that? What do you like? Is
I think
Nike
that's a
that big of a draw for it?
Nike's a huge draw, don't get me wrong. I find it interesting when you have teams that claim to be on top of the college football world in terms of income, in terms of boosters, in terms of brand, and they're complaining about another brand coming in and taking local recruits. Like, name, image, likeness is supposed to benefit those schools pretty close to as much as it benefited Oregon. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, they were up. Like, I don't really see why they're complaining about it because realistically, if you're losing out on a local recruit to Oregon when you are still that much of a college football brand, like that's kind of not a good sign.
They were saying that Texas might should drop Nike because of Nike's impact on Oregon.
Oh my God, that is
Because
disgusting.
Nike needs any of these college football teams to make money.
Yeah, seriously. Oh no, what are you gonna do?
Adidas is going to be donating to whatever school. I think it's Miami. I don't know how Adidas is. And then Under Armour is going to donate to Maryland. Like, I mean, I don't know who they're gonna are they gonna rock Rockaware or like and one.
Bring back the Aeropostale uniforms, bro.
Oh my
Bring them
lord!
back.
Of
We need
course you would say
UConn.
that.
We need UConn back on
Your
top of the
haircut
college
makes me
football
think
world.
you wear Aeropostale.
Excuse me. I woke up from a nap an hour ago, sir, so you can stop with the slander. Well,
So
now, Mike, now you got me self-conscious on air. Now I gotta fix my hair, dude. See what you did.
I see what I did. Hey, but real question though. The Kayvon Thibodeau's NFT with Tinker Hatfield and Phil Knight. That seems I love Oregon. That seems like a pretty smart I mean it's smart thinking, but it just seems like a direct funnel from booster to player.
Oh, 100%. And like, this is what people were worried about with name, image, likeness was the fact that NCAA is kind of like, all right, you got what you want, like we're hands off, like go for it. And now it's just kind of like money's being thrown all over the place. And I think what Oregon did was smart because they've, whatever loopholes or however they figured out that this was okay to do, like good for them. Like, don't hate the player, hate the game, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like now you're gonna see, SEC schools doing this crap. You're gonna see Ohio State. You're gonna see Texas and A&M and all these other schools
Is it
doing
2000
that kind of stuff.
is it 2008 again? Oregon innovating college football?
Oh God, Oregon taking advantage of college football.
Hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey, hey. I wouldn't call it taking
Hey, again, I'm just
advantage.
saying. Hey, don't hate the
No,
player, hate the game. Like, good for
that
them
sounds
for thinking
harsh
of it.
though. Taking advantage. That sounds kind of mean.
You can't
Like,
you can't deny that it's like not a little bit shady, like just a little bit. You don't have to admit that
no,
like it's
it's not.
illegal or whatever. It's a little bit shady though.
I don't know. Listen,
Also, I feel like they could have done a better job on that design, but that's just the web design major in me talking. So,
listen. I'm just saying. I seen a whole bunch of teams who are gonna have the most benefit from name, image, likeness list that didn't include Oregon at all. So I don't know.
which
Name, image, likeness is
I
not gonna help us, man. That's what a lot of people were saying.
which I don't know who was dumb enough to say that, but like, go them. I hope that they realized that they were wrong completely.
I know I was talking
Um,
to you about it before it became live, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah. And I mean, for UW, right? I think name, image, like this is still going to benefit UW. It's just not going to be known at all because the focus is going to be on the Oregon States, or not the Oregon States. Oh my
The
God. What the
organs.
hell? The Oregons, the USCs, the UCLAs.
It's gonna help you edge out on the players you're recruiting against, like Arizona State and Cal
Yes.
for. It's gonna help you
Uh-huh.
edge out for those guys. Like maybe you
Uh-huh.
keep that wide receiver from last year.
Yeah. And every once in a while, it's I don't know if it'll be the edge, but every once in a while, maybe you see more guys who are kind of like lower on the big programs. Like maybe you'll see them like, okay, yeah, I'll go to Washington. Like name, image, likeness works here when their top five is going to be like, Washington, Arizona State, USC, and then they're going to be lower on a team like Oregon maybe or lower on, one of those bigger programs, but they're still going to include them in that final list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you
Um,
include teams for clout nowadays.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you see a top five and you throw Alabama in that mix and like LSU, it's like, oh, this guy's pretty good. And then, yeah. Sorry, my Midwestern coming out in me there.
Oh,
The
that's
the
pretty
little
good there, Mike.
oh yeah, there, bud.
There you go.
Don't you know?
There you fucking go, man.
There
So
you go, bud.
we're gonna do a new thing on the show. I just thought of it. I did not prepare this
I'm
beforehand.
just gonna say, what
I
are you gonna
just
throw
thought
me?
of
'Cause
it.
I ain't ready for
So
this.
we both need to be completely objective, and we got to ask each other a question about our programs and our honest opinion. No fan to it at all. In
Okay.
your honest opinion, will this current staff at Washington ever be able to recruit on par with Oregon?
No. With Cristobal there? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you can't compare it, right? And like I think Lake would have to. I mean, there's a couple of recruiting weak points of our staff. Like we, you know,
Can improve on.
Cristobal, yeah, can improve on. Cristobal amplifies all of his supporting staff with his recruiting abilities times 10. Jimmy Lake helps, but he doesn't have that impact on the staff. At least not yet.
He's got a different energy too. Jimmy Lake is
He does have it.
he's a quieter guy.
He's a quieter guy. You know, Cristobal is this loud out
He's
there
an offensive
type of
lineman.
guy.
Like,
Yeah, and it
he's
works.
truly an offensive lineman.
And it works for recruiting. Like that's the type of energy that really works for recruiting. And Lake, you know, is this more, I would say, I don't want to say Cristobal is like cocky and arrogant, but he's definitely got that edge to him. Lake is definitely more humble, I would say.
Lake is
You
more
know.
Tua. Cristobal is more Baker.
Yes.
Attitude
sure.
wise, like not
Attitude. Okay, I was gonna say, attitude wise, yes.
yeah,
we'll roll with that.
attitude wise, like Tua's quiet, but he's still solid.
Yeah.
College wise, NFL no, but college wise, quiet, still a good player. Both were
Yeah.
good players, and
Yeah.
Baker was just a lot more loud and out there. And I think an underrated part of our recruiting is our strength coordinator, Coach Feld. I think he's huge.
Coach Feld for
I think
as much as
I think players love him. Washington fans think he's corny. I think players love him.
Dude, I'll be the first to admit I love the guy. Like, oh my
I
god,
love that
dude,
energy.
Like, he's awesome. And like, come on, you can't tell me that like somebody with that type of stash like isn't kick ass. Like, come on, dude.
He said Jeff Foxworthy told him his stash was nice.
I'll be the first to admit I love that guy. And you know, like those are the parts of the program that like go under the radar because Oregon's, you know, this big out there program and people don't realize that recruiting, there's a lot of smaller parts that go into it, you know. How are the facilities? How's the supporting staff around them? You know, do people like the weights coach? Do people like
Spend more time with a
know,
strength coach than any other coach.
yeah, exactly. 100%.
Also, shout out Coach Feld. He just had a daughter.
Oh, good for him.
I think the other day.
Nice. That's awesome. Very good to hear.
Chocolate straw. Okay, Jose.
Yeah, I have chat pulled up.
Yeah, that's one of my friends. So
Nice.
your turn to ask an objective question, and I have to answer
All right.
truthfully, regardless of fandom.
All right, Mike. Recruiting aside, because Cristobal's a great recruiter. Can Oregon win a national championship, or even get to the playoff and win a playoff game with Cristobal as head coach
This year or like ever?
in the next like 3 years?
Yes, I think we win a title within that time period.
You think so?
I'm 100%, especially with the talent you pull in. All it takes is that one game changer. You get that one game changing player, and you can win a national championship. And
Okay.
no disrespect to coaches, when you have that game changing player, your coach doesn't matter.
Fair.
Mark Helfrich has a playoff win because of Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like
you have a point.
so, and I also don't think I really hope Cristobal gets out of play calling because he's really good at hiring staff. He hires some great
I was
staff.
gonna say because you know with him kind of
We have
play
Moorhead.
calling.
Why is Moorhead not calling the plays? One of the
you guys.
every list, Big Game Boomer, all those freaking
Yeah.
lists, top OCs in the country. Moorhead's up there. Why is he not calling all the plays? Because I know damn well Moorhead is not calling those pistol plays.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the games that they played last year. Again, COVID year, but also you guys played like 7 or 8 games, so it's a way bigger sample size than say Washington has from last season. I mean, you guys had a tough one against Oregon State. You guys had a tough one against Cal. And you could say winning the Pac-12 whatever aside, you isolate your losses and those weren't
let me be honest
games.
to Oregon fans. If winning the Pac-12 is still an achievement, we're not on the level we want to be. Like, at least to me, winning the Pac-12, I mean, it's a necessary accomplishment yearly to be where we want to be, but it doesn't like impress me. Like, it's like, okay, that's supposed to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's supposed to be every year. Like, that's not even supposed to be a question, especially now with the talent we have. It's, if we lose the Pac-12, it better be to USC. And if it's to anybody else, it's a disappointment.
It's fair. It's a good take. I would say the same thing for Washington, but we're not looking at that upper echelon, at least not yet, right? Just because, Oregon recruiting wise and stuff, they're up there with the best of them. They've been to the playoff. Washington has too. Oregon's been in a national title game. Washington hasn't. Argue all you want about that, at least they were close, but getting to that game's pretty important too.
Can't win the game if you don't get to it.
Exactly. And big thing for Washington, I would say the same thing to Washington fans. Like, people are always like, oh, we're going to be this big brand soon. We're going to be on the up and up soon. It's like, well,
I've been saying soon for 5 years.
You got to be able to lock in not only your division, you got to be able to lock in the conference consistently.
And you got to be able to keep your best coaches. Like, Chris Peterson retired with nobody realizing that was about to happen. Quiddy left with nobody expecting that to happen. Like, in my opinion, all of my favorite coaches of yours, besides Lake, I really liked Lake as well, all of your best coaches are gone from that playoff team. And there's good
support staff around them, but that Chris Peterson era of coaches and the guys that they had, they're gone, and it's hard to compare to them because they were really, really good. They really were. So it's
a completely different coaching staff, and
it is. And you can't treat them the same as the last one, but also you can't expect them right away out of the gate to be putting Washington in that playoff conversation like they were towards the end of Peterson's career. It
took Peterson a few years to even get into that conversation.
Exactly.
And that was with Oregon going through the worst years they've had in 30 years. Now you have 100%. Oregon at maybe its best years in 30 years coming up.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're on the up, but not. I went like.
Yeah, coming up.
Past couple seasons have been.
I'm not comparing 2019, 2020 to 2010, 2007, and 2014.
Yeah,
these are not Marcus Mariota, Dennis Dixon teams. Not in the slightest.
Well, that was a fun little segment. You caught me off guard with that.
Yeah, I just thought of it because I seen
out of left field.
I seen somebody tweet something that says, "Be objective about your college football team," and I was like, "This is a good segment." I think we'll do that every once in a while, so we could start thinking of questions to ask each other. We got to answer it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it keeps me on my toes. So
it's cool. It's really cool. I don't know. I just thought of it on the spot. I thought it was a pretty cool segment idea.
I know. I dig it, man. I'm down for it. I'm here for it.
Do we have any other topics?
I mean, not that I can think of. We covered name, image, likeness. This episode is basically a follow-up to 3 because we covered the same topics, but we have some closure now, especially with JTT. I mean,
I've been trying to keep the episode shorter too, so I'm kind of glad we're only at 37 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's good. Good content. Big fan of that. I do also, I don't know if you're going to put this in the podcast or not. I think it's interesting, not related to the Pac-12 or anything, just a college football fan observing college football here.
We'll put it
SMU. What's going on there?
Now, I want to take a jab at Texas A&M. How are you going to tell me that you're going to come back at Oregon with a wrath and then lose a player to Southern Methodist? Like,
hey,
if you can't beat Southern Methodist, good luck going against fucking Nike. Like, good luck.
Yeah. SMU's on the up though. They have landed 3 recruits in the top 150 now from this class.
Back to their old ways.
Hey, if you gotta throw the bag, you gotta throw the bag, man. Like,
and now it's allowed, so they won't get the death penalty.
It's that's what I'm saying. It's long enough in the past too to where newer fans don't really have a clue what even happened with all that.
I loved Wilbur's tweet of Southeastern college teams plotting on Oregon's death penalty. Just like, good luck. Our lawyers are
Dude,
better
Wilbur,
than yours besides Stanford.
the best part about when Washington Twitter is up in flames is that Wilbur and Owen post their best content.
Wilbur and Owen are the best thing to happen to Duck and Husky Twitter.
They thrive in chaos, and
Bro,
it is.
I get roasted by both of them, and I still love them.
Yeah, no, I don't even think I'm relevant enough for either of them to even know. But God, dude, they're a good time on Twitter. That's for sure.
Marcus Mariota last year had more playing time than Jacob Eason. Probably will for most of his career.
That's Marcus Mariota, though.
And that's one game. Marcus Mariota is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Don't care.
Why would he not be?
Because he's a backup?
That's not a hard statement to make, I feel like. Maybe, I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
there's
I'm
32
tripping,
teams.
but...
Like, I'm saying, he's starter caliber in the NFL.
Oh, yeah. He showed flares of it at Tennessee, and that was during a time when Tennessee's coaching was kind of bleh, you know.
Don't get me started about the fucking Tennessee Titans and Marcus Mariota. They tried to make this man fucking Ryan Tannehill. They tried to make him a pocket passer. Like, did they watch a single game at Oregon? Like, or did they just say, "Ooh, Heisman, pick him"? Like, bro, they had him dropping back and fucking throwing the ball on.
Also the same staff that took Jake Locker 8th overall.
And then the one game we see him at in Oakland, Marcus Mariota looks like Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
Holy shit, you put him in a spread offense and he looks like Marcus Mariota. Crazy.
I'm interested to see how that dynamic works with him and Derek Carr.
I am low on Derek Carr. I think he's better than Derek Carr. Not because I'm insanely high on Marcus, because I think Derek Carr is.
I think Derek Carr is kind of. I think he's a bit underrated, and I think
Kirk Cousins is better.
I mean, I could see that, but I don't know. I'm just interested to see what that staff decides to do with that, because obviously Derek Carr started last year, but I mean, like,
and
are you?
Is Derek Carr spread quarterback? Like, I genuinely don't know. Is he a spread quarterback?
I think so.
You have literally like if Jesus could build a spread quarterback, it would be Marcus Mariota.
I think if Jesus could build a spread quarterback, he would just do it himself because he's Jesus. Don't you think?
No, he doesn't have the Mahalo power, you know?
Oh my god. Oh. This
he doesn't have the DNA of
this podcast is not Vatican approved, by the way.
He doesn't have the DNA of a Polynesian.
He's
he's not poly. Jesus is not poly.
Yes, you're not wrong. Oh my god.
Like, no, but for real though, even in the game we saw in Oakland and the first few years in Tennessee when they tried to kind of run a little bit of spread offense styles, like, what have we seen that shows he can't do what a Lamar, not to the level, but style of a Lamar Jackson?
Yeah.
Some Washington fan was finna start fucking spamming their keyboard about how Lamar Jackson was an MVP and Marcus Mariota is barely in the league. I knew it would have come if I didn't say something.
Yeah, because Lamar Jackson is far and away a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. I don't
Agreed. I'm not arguing that. Because every time
I've
mentioned he could play the same style, same kind of role,
that's what
every time I bring that up on Twitter, they're like, he's not as good as Lamar Jackson. No fucking shit.
We know. Like, hello.
Lamar Jackson won an MVP. Do I ever think Marcus Mariota will win an NFL MVP? No. Do I think he could be a Pro Bowler QB? Yes. Yeah. MVP? No.
Yeah, I mean, Mariota, the only thing against him is that he's not getting any younger. Not that he's super old, but in injury. Like, those are the only two things that are, like, kind of against him. And also, like, playing for the Raiders, like, that's always kind of tough.
God, I wanted to see him go to the Patriots.
No, that would have been... Because that was a thing for a while, and then they said...
It would have been like Cam Newton, but not broken. All right, guys, so that was the 4th episode of the Ducks and Dawgs podcast. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Matt any closing remarks other than how terrible Washington is at sports?
Washington is actually good at sports. That is
Name
my
'em.
closing. Rowing.
Okay.
I mean, we're national champions, so rowing, football is good, despite whatever you say. Not saying basketball because that's not true at all.
Women's basketball, also not
Women's,
true.
they're better than our men's team.
I mean, my high school
we
women's
don't
team is better
need
than
to
men's
get into that. We don't need to get into that.
Anyways, guys, we thank you for watching or listening, however you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Music, whoever the hell uses Tidal, YouTube, whatever you're watching on, we appreciate you. Even if you use Tidal, you know, you might have some issues going on, but we still appreciate you.
Hey, shout out to you if you are using Tidal, because you got some other things going on, obviously. So.
You got Black Forces energy. Anyways, guys, thank you, and we hope to see you next episode.